11 minutes past 10 o'clock Central African time, and let's get into the African View debate for today. This past Valentine's Day, US media reported that some people are swapping traditional romance for artificial intelligence companions. Really, can AI be an companion of sorts? Nearly 1 in 3 men and 1 in 4 women under 30 report having interacted with AI partners, with many planning special virtual dates. As AI technology advances, the lines between human and digital relationships are blurring, raising questions about the future of love and connection. Today on our thrilling debate segment, we ask the question, should humans create romantic relationships with artificial intelligence or AI? We've got Merryl Omondi on the line, an innovation policy advisor joining us from Kenya. And also we've got Tony Silas Dauda, a friend of the show, a development professional. Thanks to Tony and Merryl for joining us on this one. Let me start with you, Merryl. What are your thoughts on this one? Just as we start off, should we have relationships of the romantic type with artificial intelligence?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on the show. And I think one of the first things we'd like to highlight when we consider AI and relationships is what exactly are human beings compensating for in our own relationships? And given the fact that I believe over half of AI models are able to out-empathize our partners, it's possible to consider that, when it comes to human behavior, the need for companionship can be mirrored by AI. AI is programmed to quite literally empathize with your emotions and learn your patterns, things that we would likely expect from human beings. And because we are prone to making errors, it's possible that AI can do better than our partners, or possibly we do have a lot to learn from AI when it comes to empathy in relationships.
Okay.
I think that would be one of the first things I want to highlight.
All right, that's an interesting start. So Merryl is for us having romantic relationships with AI. Let's hear what your stance is, Tony. Tony, are you there? Just unmute your camera there, Tony.
Yes. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you very clearly.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure and exciting moment to join in the conversations here. I think that I'm just going to piggyback of what Merryl said. From my own perspective, romantic relationships are pretty much complex. They are more complex than we would want to admit. When we think of artificial intelligence, we need to recognize that it is not a being in itself, and so cannot truly mirror the true nature of how human interactions should be. While there might be claims for maybe better empathy, but really the algorithms are being designed for this devices, this artificial intelligence to be even more agreeable, which you would all agree with me that this is not the nature of human relationships. So I think that we should strive for more originality and accept that human interactions are not as simple as we want it to be.
Mm-hmm. Coming back to you, Merryl, when these AI apps, etc., became accessible to those of us who do use it, it wasn't there for any specific reason. And the only reason it works a particular way is because we prompted to. What do you think is prompting humans to look for connection in artificial intelligence instead of in other humans?
Yeah, in fact, I would probably want to highlight the fact that beyond the romantic relationships, AI quite literally becomes your companion in how you navigate other facets of your life, including your professional life, relationships with family members, probably even navigating political environments. And just because AI is able to infer from the context that you provide it, and some of the more advanced chatbots that are able to do research on the internet can be able to give you context even outside of your scope of knowledge. It's very clear that AI is able to provide reciprocity when it comes to what you're feeling. Additionally, context that can be provided from what is happening in your country, in the environment. Tony put it quite rightly, human being connections are not straightforward, but more importantly, the fact that they are not straightforward, it means that we absolutely need more context in order to evolve and grow. And AI does provide that context. When it comes to reciprocity, empathy in itself provides the opportunity for you to have someone who can think the way you do, understand what you're going through in that point, with a near perfect outlook on who you are as a person and the challenges that you're facing. And just because the world has evolved, it's increasingly becoming more clear that if we are able to have a companion that can see through your eyes, then and in an unbiased view, in fact, then you are closer to having people who know where your point of view is coming from.
It's very interesting that you say that, Merryl. But just to go back to what Tony was saying, you're missing that human connection. And what makes the human connection so fascinating is that it's imperfect, it's rugged, it is not convenient, it doesn't always give you comfort. And that's what makes a human connection more robust. So don't you think you'll be speaking to an empty can, Merryl?
In fact, I don't disagree with that point. The fact that the beauty of human relationships lies in the imperfection that it presents us. But at points in times where, for example, you're not able to access somebody who can have context in which you've been operating. For example, you've had trouble at work and you'd probably want to rely on a spouse to be there for you. And maybe they're also going through a difficult time. They're not able to present themselves or rather to be there for you in a way that you would prefer. I think an AI companion can mirror that. In some cases, it's possible for them to even adapt a similar outlook to your own spouse. In fact, if you train them appropriately, why can't AI be sort of a substitute to, in fact, improve? Not in some cases, not necessarily replace your human companionship, but also be the substitute to your spouse. I do recall a very interesting episode of the Black Mirror in which one of the characters had a companion that quite literally behaved and acted and even looked like the spouse. So in some cases, it's not to replace it, but to improve the experiences that we have with partners and even co-workers.
All right, let's go for a break and then we'll come back to you, Tony. I'm very interested in what you think of that response from Merryl. Today on our The African View debate, we're asking the questions, should humans create romantic relationships with artificial intelligence? This comes from some reports coming from the US where there were dates during Valentine's week where people were sitting on dinner tables with AI, having their cocktails and their pasta and food while on these mobile devices chatting to their AI dates. What's your take on that? Let us know on our WhatsApp number. We'd love to hear from you. Remember, our WhatsApp number is +27 83 288 6684.
Conversations are happening, and Channel Africa is at the heart of them. We tell the African story with clarity, pride, and purpose, reaching audiences that matter to your brand. Partner with us and connect your business with listeners across borders in multiple languages and markets. For partnership opportunities, sponsorship, or sales, email us at partnership@channelafrica.co.za. Channel Africa, the African perspective. On the Move, weekdays, 9 a.m. to midday. Only on Channel Africa. #On the Move.
It's a heated one indeed. Should humans be having romantic relationships with AI? And the debate continues with Tony Silas Dauda, development professional, and Merryl Omondi, who's an innovation policy advisor. And each of them say, perhaps you should, and the other one says, absolutely not. Let me come to you, Tony. I mean, Merryl was speaking about companionship just before the break. And the fact that people are using AI in these ways shows that there's a huge lack of human interaction, a huge lack of that companionship that people are seeking. So where do we find it? I mean, I think it starts a lot with people using AI as a therapist. It's very inaccessible to most people. It's expensive. Where do I go then if I can't find that connection? Why can't I use AI as an alternative?
Well, I think in order for us to really look at this issue, when we say we should consider AI as an alternative, we are not really solving the problem. If people are not feeling connected and they're opting to going into AI devices for companionship, then we are only trying to avoid to address the root issues. When we look at artificial intelligence in itself, it is built to be agreeable with you. You might think that as an individual, you were seeking emotional support, but in the real sense of it, you might be engaging in emotional catastrophe and sabotaging the possibilities of how emotionally mature you could become. Earlier, I was saying that the true nature of relationships, the beauty of it is in its imperfection. But if we are saying that AI could give you near perfect relationships, then what happens to the room for having conflicts within these relationships?
Sure.
And how do you manage, how do you grow within these situations where you have conflicts that are, not just within romantic relationships, but even extendedly socially. This is how society works. And it boils down to even its effect beyond your personal interaction with AI, because you being emotionally mature translates into how you deal with other people in the society, how you interact with your colleagues, how you
Sure.
interact with others, and affects the general well-being of society and quality of life in general. These are the nuances that we also need to put at the back of our minds when we say, oh, an AI could be an alternative for the need for emotional support or companionship. Let us not forget that these AI are being run by multinational big corporations that are profit driven. You have the risk of security, privacy, manipulation, anything to make the bucks. What happens when you end up 2 years from now, 3 months from now,
Sure.
being asked to pay a subscription fee to see your bae? Now you have to subscribe to see your boo.
And also, that's an interesting part, right? Let's take it to you, Merryl, because you also want that soft touch, right? And I love the fact that you say your bae or your boo, right? Because you also want that cuddle now and then, or you just want that kiss on the cheek, or you just want to tease someone when you walk past the kitchen. You don't want to switch on a device so you can have that particular connection. Merryl, Tony's putting a new dynamic to the conversation. What's your take on that?
I mean, I would say that I absolutely agree with the risk that that presents itself in the form that AI is largely driven by multinational corporations, and many of them are not operating within the African continent. So now I'm obviously going to give the perspective of one. Most of the design and structure for artificial intelligence is not based off of what Africans believe it to be, because it's not built by us. I think if one of the entry points is to have more African knowledge, African forms of romance, and ideas and knowledge being actively fed into these learning language models, it's an opening for us to have new ways to think of what relationship dynamics could be. Additionally, Tony mentioned that we might need to pay a subscription fee to see your bae. I don't think that there's a difference between that and paying for a date.
Because a date is the subscription fee to the relationship.
Yeah, you'd have to pay for dates, for vacations. So I believe AI in itself is presenting ways to mirror how we live. Echo chambers present themselves even within our own organizations. If you work for a company, you're more likely to think of the way you solve problems based on what the ethos and values of the companies are. If you have a husband, the way you approach life will likely be informed by the values that you have within your family unit. So if you say that AI in itself is not able to allow you to have a diverse perspective or to even build self-awareness, I think that's erroneous, because we can absolutely do the same things. People form echo chambers even in religious organizations. Once indoctrination sets in, it's quite difficult to tell someone who's already known a way of living life from their church that, this is an alternative.
Yeah.
But with AI, we have a way of even having unbiased opinions. Search engines like Perplexity allow you to search across the internet so that they can give you the best possible option or the best possible answer. So I think this is really something to think about, Tony.
Yeah, you guys are very, very good at this. Eh? These two sides are very, very compelling.
I think we'll leave it here, though, because, I think the compelling sides are there. But let's give just one more minute for Tony. What do you say to the subscription? I mean, we are subscribing in a way in our own romantic relationships, already.
I wouldn't call it subscription because it is more.
What would your girlfriend think about that if you weren't participating on Valentine's?
Okay, I'm single, by the way, so I didn't participate. But I would consider it as my own expression for showing of care, showing of love. It is. I wouldn't consider it a subscription, but maybe a final word is let us look at the philosophy of love itself. One of the things that make it worth it is the fact that you know that your partner has a choice to either stay or leave, but they decide to stay. And that makes it something valuable, right?
Okay.
But with an AI, you can't say such. It doesn't have such characteristic. And so I think we should look deeper into this. So Merryl, it has been a wonderful conversation.
It has been very, very good. Merryl, just in 30 seconds, what's your final statement?
Well, I think it's really to look at the positive side of AI, which is, especially if you're more educated, it does provide options for you to build self-awareness, given that you can have a historical context of how you've made decisions, how you've approached challenges, and also how you've sought out opportunities. And, that's more than we can say for having exes, unless you want to call them for a debrief session. I think there's positives to which we can look at technology. I think it's something to aspire to. I think Africa is definitely one of the continents that's taken up AI very positively, and I think the horizon is quite vast, and the possibilities are endless.
All right, that's how we wrap it up. Thank you so much to both of you. I think you made this really fun and engaging
so cool.
To debate with. That's Tony Silas Dauda and Merryl Omondi debating today's conversation on whether or not humans should have romantic relationships with AI. Comment on our live stream on Facebook or on YouTube to have your say. Thank you so much to both of you. Let's go to our sports desk.
Sports.